Welcome to Top M&A Entrepreneurs. Today, my guest is Sam Rosati. Sam, how's it going?
It's great, John. Good to hear from you, man.
All
Cool.
right, so I just saw your press release buying a fence company in my side of the country, Brown and Biddle.
That's
Fantastic.
right.
And your little map said we're going to kind of focus on southeastern countries, southeastern acquisitions, but you're all the way over here. What's going on? Yeah.
I know. We're taking a brave foray out west to Phoenix, Arizona. But, the fence company it started as a Florida and a Southeast. It's gotten quite a bit bigger, and it's taken a little bit of time, but we finally got comfortable going west of the Mississippi, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not going to be a lot of difference as far as the heat coming from Florida, but it's dry heat. Very dry.
So the people who live in Arizona say that. And then you get there and it's 115 degrees and it burns your skin when you walk outside. I'm not thinking it's any better.
Oh, it is. It's brutal, man. If we didn't have AC here, we would be just horrible. It'd be miserable.
No
That's
kidding,
why
man.
that's why HVAC companies are so their multiples are so high out here because you just can't go without HVAC here.
The life or death, man.
Cyber death. It's a need. Yeah. So
Yeah.
hey, you're. I know you joined SMB Law a couple years ago. You're working with Eric, working with Kevin Henderson. All praise to Kevin Henderson.
Yes, that's right. We put that firm together. God, it's been 2.5 years. I can't believe that already.
Yeah. And did you guys know each other before then, or what was the deal?
No, no, we did not. Kevin and Eric knew each other, but I was the new guy to the club. So they called me up and they were looking for somebody kind of already in the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I still have a law degree and was able to be a partner at a law firm. Obviously you need to have that background. So that was it. From
So,
there, we kept running.
so SMB Law, small business. Are you guys now big? A big law firm now? I mean, you guys are
John, don't
a lot,
offend me, man. Come
a lot
on.
of traffic on
No.
a lot of X traffic.
So let's call it this way. Like we've grown a lot. We've
Yeah.
grown our lawyer count, which our lawyers are the heart of the business. We've grown our support staff, but we're still a small company, right? We're not a big law firm. There's a lot of traffic on Twitter or X because that's where our community is.
Yeah.
Of course they're on LinkedIn and other places, but Twitter is where a lot of us still go to share and meet and all of those things.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's news. I don't have to go through ABC, Fox, or NBC, anything else. I can get what happens around the world instantaneously.
And you can get great memes.
Yeah, and you can create Kevin Henderson memes.
Kevin's the best, by the way. Kevin is the most interesting man.
Yeah. So I got to ask you about a couple Premier Solutions Group. I did a little research on this and your relationship with Chris Clyforth and Wes Tolbert. How did that come together? I mean, you leave a big law firm, you go to SMB Law, and where did this start? You go, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this with a holding company too.
Yeah, well, it started a while ago. So, oh man, what are we in 2024? Let's call it like 4 or 5 years ago. I had already bought in a couple small businesses and was in the game. So I finally was starting to realize what it was like to own and run a small company. And Chris and I had met through one of those prior businesses, and he was transitioning out of being a CEO of a fencing supply business, not an installer, but call it a distributor, a supplier of fencing hardware. And so we talked about mutual interest and enjoyment in investing in small companies, and then somehow the topic of fence came up. And long story short, we said, you know what, we both want to go pursue the commercial fence installation segment, and let's go do that together. And it took us a year. It took us a year until we found what is the start of PSG, Perimeter Solutions Group, and that was West Florida Fence, the platform company.
Yeah.
And Wes was the CEO of West Florida Fence and wanted to partner with a group to go build that business around the Southeast. And that was 3 years ago. We started the platform by acquiring West Florida Fence and partnering with Wes.
Yeah.
And Wes has a partner at the time named Rob, and we now have a CFO, and now there's a big team involved in growing the fence business around the country.
Yeah. That's amazing. So this West Florida Fence Company you bought in 2021.
Yep.
What did that? This is what gets people stumbled. Like, where do I start? Was this a small enough business where I could just go get an SBA loan at the time? 2021, 6% interest rates. That's fantastic. Or
Yeah.
was it a mid market? And I looked to Chris Kleifoff. I went to his LinkedIn page. He looks like he was in private equity for 13 years or more, running a CEO. So he's the money guy. Looks like it, or what that does. And so, what did that kind of first acquisition look like?
Sure. Well, look, so I can't share all the details, but what I can say for sure is that West Florida Fence was too big to buy with an SBA loan.
Too big, yeah, mid
So
market, right?
it was still not a big company, but it was bigger than you can do with an SBA loan.
Yeah,
And that was our intention, right? Like our intention wasn't to go use an SBA loan to finance 90% of the acquisition with debt. That was never our strategy. And to be clear, I've done that before when I bought smaller businesses right after being at a law firm. So I think I don't want to say something and teach another, because I do teach how to buy a small company using an SBA loan. But I think for a lot of people, the SBA loan by a smaller business is the best first foray into entrepreneurship through acquisition. The fence company for me and Chris, anyway, was sort of that next evolution for us, which is buying something a little bit bigger and now growing it organically and through further acquisitions.
so that was your first company. It goes into an LLC or something, your holding company. Now, was he a I'm the money guy, I'm going to go find the equity, or did he bring in his own? You guys brought your own, or did you go raise it from bigger investors, accredited, institutional? What?
Yeah, again, I've got
No,
to keep
nothing specific.
yeah, the details confidential, but we I would not say Chris is the money guy, I was the deal guy. We were partners in doing sort of everything together. So we went out and raised equity from various people. We raised some debt from a bank, and we partnered with West Florida Fence and Wes and Rob in that transaction. So it is a bigger purchase price than you can do with an SBA loan,
Yeah, yeah,
but it didn't require these big fancy institutions to finance it at that first stage.
yeah. And Wes was the kind of the operations guy. He was running the business first, or yeah,
Correct. He was, and he still is.
yeah.
Correct.
And these subsequent acquisitions, Sterling, C and Brown and Biddle. He's the operational guy on those two, or do you keep those people in place that are there?
So Wes is the president and CEO of the entire platform,
Yeah,
and now it's a much bigger business. He also obviously oversees what's going on in Florida and here in Tampa, but we now have partners around the country. So as you mentioned, we partnered with two folks in Atlanta on CNC, and they continue to run that operation today. They were doing a great job, and they were wanting to stay on and continue building that business, so they are.
yeah.
And same goes in Phoenix.
So these two additional acquisitions, Sterling Enterprise, CNC, and Lady Fence, were those on market or off market deals?
They were all on market.
Yeah,
So yeah, they were all on market, brokered opportunities, and so yeah, I mean, in a way, I again try to teach all these things, and other than the SBA loan piece, in this case, everything we bought in is through brokers.
yeah.
For sure.
or investment bankers or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
those are the same thing at the end of the day. They're just sort of different levels of sophistication.
Yeah. And uh, when you look at the economics of the West Florida fence, well, what do you guys like about the fencing business? I mean, doesn't it rely on a trends of construction, which there's 10-year cycles?
Yeah, it does, no doubt. So like there are things that make it not perfect. What we like about it, and maybe we can clarify a little bit, is we are in the fencing business, but we're in the commercial side. So very few of our customers are homeowners. So we are mostly a commercial focused fence company.
Yeah.
And so what that means is, the projects are bigger, more dollars. It also means they're more technical. They require things like oftentimes bonding or more paperwork or pre-qualification or some kind of other specialty skilled labor. So all of those things, what's nice is that it creates uh, a little bit of a moat, right? It's a competitive advantage if you can do those things well, because not every fence installer can do them well, and that makes it easier to grow organically because it will lead to repeating revenue from customers.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we like. We're also not in the material sales business. We are focused on installation. And so again, it's technical hard work, and it gives you a chance to create a moat. And from there, good things happen. But yes, of course, right? It's mostly based on construction projects, although a lot of our revenue at this point is not purely construction related.
Yeah. In Tucson, there's Baker Fence Company, and that's usually
Okay.
all I see is Baker.
Okay.
So there's almost monopoly of fence
Yeah.
companies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're still competitors, but yeah, their brands tend to do really well if they've been around a long, long time.
Yeah. What are the economics you like about that? It's like a rental business.
There's a portion of our business that does fence rental. So you've probably seen fence rental two different places. Most people have seen it. One is on a construction site when there's, for example, a building being built or renovated. There is fence around the construction site, and it is typically not permanent fence. And so by definition, we rent it to the customer, usually before then installing the permanent fence after the construction project is done. So we do a lot of temporary fence. And then the other application is in, like, for example, events. Think road race, like a marathon or a parade. Temp fence will be stood up and then tore down before and right after the event, and so we do that too.
Yeah. What do you like about the economics of this of fencing business? I mean, it sounds like Chris was in that business, very strong background of understanding what the margins are.
Yeah,
And when you look at a business to purchase on market, like what are you looking for red flags? Because a lot of the times, 9 out of 10 businesses are dismissed because of the red flags. So what kind of,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, we have a long list of things we look for, right? But maybe to keep it simple, what we're looking for is we're looking for a team that is energized to keep growing a business. Because a lot of fence companies that have been around a long, long time don't have that energy, that enthusiasm for growth. So we look for that, and we look for a customer base that tends to purchase from a target company over and over again, right? Like that repeating revenue over time is really important.
is there a
And
number
then
associated with that, like 50% reoccurring, 80% reoccurring, or what is the fence industry that you
I
like to
don't
see?
know what the fence industry is, but we kind of have a sense for how much we like to see
Yeah.
when we look at a company. And I'll probably hold the secret sauce behind a little bit. And we like to see good end markets too. So not all commercial projects are created equal, right? A multifamily construction fence versus temporary, we're talking M markets versus hospitals, governments, schools. We like to see some diversity in end markets too. So
Yeah.
there's lots of things we look at, and none of this is rocket science.
Yeah. And the Phoenix market is a growing market. They just keep building out and out and out. You got to like that.
Yeah, I love it, and it's a good market too because we can install fence year round, although the summer is nasty. Um,
Yeah.
and there's things going on in development in Arizona that are crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Intel plants, all that stuff. What kind
Yeah.
of questions do you ask the existing management to kind of decide that they have the energy to run it themselves and to grow it themselves? What is that? What are you looking for?
I mean, it's usually a conversation, right? I mean, I always try to really understand why a seller is selling. And I know you referred to a management team. In a lot of cases, we're talking about a seller or a seller and two sellers, maybe a wife and a husband um, running a business. It's really all about like what are they trying to achieve? Are they 45 and they're really just trying to take some cash off the table to secure their financial future, but at the end of the day, like they have the energy to go for 10 more years? Or are they really close to retirement and ultimately like their objective is to be retired? And then we really need to go figure out who can stand up for them to get them to retirement. So I think maybe a lot of folks try to, poke. We're trying to listen to what they want and not try to fit them into our mold.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this acquisition to start. You had this hypothesis. That's where you start. It's like this is what we're going to buy. This is what we expect. But now we made our first acquisition, which is West Florida Fence, then Sterling, then
Right.
CNC and Lady Fence. Now you have a thesis. Some things worked, some things didn't. Kind of have a what that looked like, and share some stories about that.
Yeah. So I mean, we definitely had a thesis, and the thesis was around geography number one, which is to stay in the Sun Belt, which has been generally experiencing demographic tailwinds. And that leads to construction and other fencing applications that make it easier to win. And we had a thesis around, a lot of fencing businesses have been around a long time and are run by people who have also been around a long time. And it's sort of a mini version of the silver tsunami. So maybe we could be a provider of liquidity to them. So we had a lot of that thesis out there. We weren't sure if we were right. One way we were wrong is we thought a lot of the company owners of fencing businesses would be older folks nearer to retirement that would want to be, quickly transitioning into retirement. We're finding that's not the case. There are a lot of owners of fencing companies that are fairly young, and what they actually desire is not to hand the keys and run away, but to partner with a bigger company like us, PSG, and let us support them to take things off their plate that they don't like to do. Maybe they don't like running payroll. Maybe they don't like worrying about billing and chasing customers to pay. Maybe they don't like insurance and annual renewals and health insurance, and like all of this administrative stuff is taxing. And a lot of fencing company owners got into it because they like fence. They like bidding jobs and selling and feeling that win. And maybe that's what they want to do more of. And they're so caught up in the administrative burdens of running a small company, they're not doing enough of that. So that's actually more of what we've found than just a bunch of near retirement owners that want to eject.
Yeah. Do you take all of that? I mean, are you putting all that admin stuff, the 401k, the insurance, the payroll? Are you bringing that in and doing all that yourself? And
No,
it's not
we
something you
tend,
do. It's something you could find a group to do, right?
yeah. So PSG does a lot of that at each business, each operating business. We're not in the game of trying to like take all of that effort and put it into a platform or like take it to the HQ, because a lot of this stuff like health insurance or you can imagine it applies to so many
It's state
things.
to state. It's state. It's different.
It's
Yeah.
it's state to state and it needs to be handled locally. But that doesn't mean we can't from the HQ support the work involved in putting in the insurance program and the benefits and all of that stuff. So that's the approach we take is we're not trying to centralize everything. We're trying to put people at the HQ who can support that function across all the businesses.
Yeah. I got a question about cross pollination of ideas. Now, I've got a buddy in the private equity world. He's done a couple $1 billion of the roll ups. And when he'd buy an HVAC company over here that had better margins and an HVAC company, new acquisition, go, look, man, we could take some of these ideas over here. Has that worked, these cross pollination of ideas? And has it ever not worked? They go, whoa, that didn't work. Because
Yeah,
it's regional.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, there are sometimes no good answers for why margins are better here or there. So, but we're always learning. And so like as you can imagine in Arizona and in Florida, there's a lot of difference. Like even in the type of material that goes into the fence that they install around Arizona is different than in Florida. I mean, we're very humid, it's very dry there. So you can imagine we've learned a ton, right? We've learned that a lot of our distribution channels, our material suppliers, have different pricing. So it's interesting to learn why. Labor's different. Some states, for whatever reason, are more inclined to have 1099 sub-installers versus W-2. And so every time we go look at a business in a different state, we're learning new stuff about the way the fence business operates in that state.
Yeah. So there's different fences in Arizona than there is in Florida because of humidity. I could see that. We just don't have the salt erosion here.
Exactly.
When you go to your supplier, are you getting better margins at buying as a group now? And that goes across the board to all your holding companies?
Yeah, so we actually haven't, again, like we're still new, right? We're only 3 years into this.
Yeah.
And, we've been in growth mode. So we haven't actually been able to get to a point where we have made a lot of progress on that. But it sounds like a great idea. Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about when you go into there, like when red flags start coming up in the new acquisitions. What do you guys do when you see those?
Before or after?
Well, there's before you can identify them, and you could either mitigate that risk or understand it's there. But there's red flags that always come up after that you didn't see.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Look, like we try to do our best to be very communicative with the team that's running the business. We're always trying to be on the road in person. Like most problems, especially if you're a new business owner, they seem worse than they are when you've gotten into things. So like we've seen a lot of problems happen. And this is, I guess it's probably kind of feeling like generic advice, but like we tend not to overreact and we try to get on a plane, get face to face and see what the issue is. And hopefully nothing is fatal. Nothing has been so far. I don't know. That's a vague answer. I don't even like that answer I gave.
How do you move? How often do you fly around to the Phoenix now and the two in Atlanta and the one in Florida? How often do you get around to these?
I'd like to say I try to do once a month at every one.
And is like Wes and Chris do the same thing, or they're kind of different?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean we're all on the road a fair bit, which is new to us, right? 2 years ago it was just a Florida operation, and now we're in multiple states, so we're definitely on more planes than we used to be, but that's fine. We signed up for it.
Yeah. So what's the end goal of this? Are you going up the private equity pyramid here to maybe turn the capital at 5 years at a bigger multiple expansion?
That's a good question. I mean, I'll tell you, we're not in a rush. We have none of our financing, like we're not a private equity fund. So there is no timeline or deadline where we have to return anybody's capital. We're in this to build a big business. So we're going to keep running, and I'm sure one day we'll ultimately, either hand the keys or partner with a group. But for now, we're going to keep building. We're looking at another acquisition now. So
Yeah. Are,
we're going
are
to
these
keep
all
building.
on market kind of deals? You just waiting for on market to come to you, or are you actually going out and doing, you know,
We do
3,000
both.
fence companies and let's do some mailers, let's just do some emails
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we do
yeah,
both. I mean, it's not a secret, but for people who are interested in buying a company, what they might not realize is once you're in the game and you're in the industry, like you get so many more opportunities that are off market because you're just another player in the game and you start meeting other owners and it becomes easier. So yeah, we do direct and through brokers now.
yeah. That's do you know Brian Beers over at the Midas guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
on Twitter I do.
On Twitter. Yeah, he talks about that. He goes, as soon as you start going to these trade shows for Midas, like they're all coming up to you. Hey, I'd be interested in selling mine. Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
And it's great, right? Because then you don't have to wait like for brokers to bring opportunities. It's not to say they're easier. So,
yeah,
it's not always easier direct either.
yeah. Do you have a man? This is not private equity money, so there's no mandatory IRR on this. Is there a mandate like two a year, three a year, one a year, or just good deals? We only gonna digest good deals.
We have an idea of what we want to build,
Yeah,
which means we want to have good fencing operations, like the best brand names and the best markets around the sunbelt. That's always been our intention. It's just taken us a little while.
yeah,
So, yeah, no, we don't have any like, have to get 2 acquisitions done a year target. None of that.
yeah. Hey, so I want to go also to Pursuant Capital. That's something else you're
Sure.
doing. Is that for the SMB buyers to help them raise the down payment? I know that was a website, but what is it now?
Yeah, so I mean, you can think of it as like a management company. It does a lot of sourcing for opportunities. So like we're out there always looking at things to acquire. Maybe it's, you know, a new industry, a platform in a new industry we've never heard of. Or maybe it's making investments in other searchers. An SMB buyer needs to raise $400,000 to buy a company. Well, we want to invest in opportunities like that. But no, Pursuant does not raise money for anybody else. Like that's my own vehicle.
That's your own.
And
Okay.
and look, like it does the boot camp too, right? Like it ultimately started teaching searchers how to buy a small company 3 years ago. And so, we teach through that vehicle too.
Yeah. I want to jump back to the Premier Solutions Group. How do you guys handle friction or arguments or there's always whether it's guys, women, whatever, there's always egos involved in this, and sometimes you step on somebody's toes. What kind of constitutionally do you have in place to say this is how we will solve this problem if this occurs?
I don't know. I mean, so far we haven't had to deal with a lot of conflict. I think we try to just be very transparent. We talk a ton. We meet a ton. We text every day. So I don't think we have like a constitution around how we're going to resolve issues. We just try to be very, very communicative.
Yeah. And what have you learned about moving up the ladder versus going to SMB? I mean, you leapfrogged. They used to say in real estate, like, it's the same amount of paperwork to do on a $300,000 deal as a $1 million deal, and it's actually less work and a bigger
Yeah, and I
paycheck.
actually
Yeah,
I don't disagree at all. I mean, it is, when a business gets a lot bigger, there's more to wrap your arms around. So it's overwhelming, right? I mean, very simply, we used to be a Florida operation and now we're Florida, Georgia, Arizona. It's way more moving parts and more things to keep your arms around. That being said, why I agree with what what the original premise was. It can feel easier if you have a great team.
Yeah.
And now I understand. Like, I used to hear that and not get it, and now I know when you get bigger, so long as you can afford and recruit and retain great people, great leaders of every kind, it does get easier, because then things grow and improve without you having to be the point person for everything. And then it's okay not to feel like we have to have our arms around every little thing in the business, because ultimately somebody does. And that somebody is highly skilled and somebody we can trust. So, like, it is all, especially in SMB, it is all about people, people, people.
Yeah. If you were to say somebody on the side goes, I want to do what you're doing, Sam, and buy, uh, mobility retail manufacturers for the upcoming baby boomers, and I want to kind of do a roll up of that. What are they? But I am great at raising money, or I'm great at operations. I'm great at, finding acquisitions. What do you think is needed for a great team to synchronize?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I've been a big fan of, like, partnered searches, when two people come together to acquire a company, because it's generally the case that a lot of us are not good at everything. We have our lanes where we're really good. Maybe some of us are really good at accounting and finance and capital raise and transaction. Maybe some of us are really good at people managing everyone. Maybe some of us are good at sales. And so I'm a big fan of that divide and conquer approach, so that every one of us can stay in our lane of the things we're really good at. And what is really hard about buying a small company is a lot of times the owner, the searcher who buys a company, has to be everything: chief cook and bottle washer. They have to do the accounting and understand it. They have to do the recruiting and people management. They have to be the salesperson. And those are really different skill sets that a lot of times have to be done by one person, the searcher. That's what makes buying a small company hard, if that dynamic is at play.
Is there any regret, like, that you did something one way and you go, I regret doing that way? You made it just a boneheaded move, and we all do them. I've had to shut one of my businesses down after acquiring it, so I know. And I almost killed the other one because I didn't forget. I just didn't heed the warnings from Google that they were moving from desktop to mobile on the pay per click, which destroyed my traffic. I didn't need the warnings. Like, we all make those kind of things, but
Yeah, I got to tell you, I feel like even though it feels like I've made every mistake known to humankind, I know I'll make another one. So, like, that's just part of the game. Um, God, like, there, that is what we're in. Like, SMB buying is all about surviving the punches that you endure day after day after day. Um, I've probably made more mistakes personally around not wanting to outsource or delegate. I've always had this thing around needing to understand whatever the function is. Early on, when I was operating in a business, I wanted to do it all. I wanted to do the accounting, do the bookkeeping, not outsource it. And I probably made a lot of mistakes around not getting more help, and that caused me to be overwhelmed and have too much on my plate. But we all sort of repeat our mistakes over and over again. So I know people who have bought small companies, they over delegate and they need to get in the weeds and they need to know the details. So it's very personal, I think.
yeah, I think I'm more like you in that. What tools do you use to kind of help yourself to push for delegation? Because not only sometimes it's because I'm just curious, but I don't have faith in somebody else doing it like I'd want to do it.
Oh man. Well, I think I've got reminders from battle scars
Mm-hmm.
around that. So it's easier to remind myself now. It's also a full calendar, right? So there's not a ton of time anymore to be able to say, yeah, I've got all day tomorrow to figure that out. Well, I don't. I also have 3 kids. So,
Yeah.
there's just
Is that it
practical
though? Is
reality.
it like it's like how does Elon Musk send 3 rockets up a month and run Tesla, and he has the same amount of hours in a day as you and I do?
Well, I don't know if Elon Musk is sending rockets up or if SpaceX is sending
Spending
rockets up.
SpaceX, right? It's the
And
delegation. Yeah.
I would guess like at the end of the day, the buck might stop with Elon, but I would not imagine he has that much involvement in rockets going into the sky. So good on him. He's built great teams that do those things while he's tweeting and doing whatever he does.
Yeah. And let's go shoot arms. It's like,
Yeah.
where does he get the time?
I don't know. I don't know, man. It's good stuff though.
Yeah. Well, Sam, man, I really appreciate the time you spent with me. I appreciate that. And there's a couple of good
Same,
gold
John.
nuggets in there, and I hope for the success. If you need an introduction to Baker Fence, they're here in Tucson.
I would love that. I
Yeah.
am in Arizona once a month,
Yeah.
so please.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, John. It was fun.
Take care, man. Thank you.
See you.
All right, let me